It's October again, and the world is buzzing with the fact that we have Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You might be surprised if I tell you that I am not really a fan of this pink movement and of the focus on finding another or a possible cure for breast cancer. But I have a little bit of a different take on this, and I'm going to tell you about that right now. I'm Kirstin Nussgruber, and I am the owner and founder of Kirstin'sCancerCare.com. And I myself am a 2 times breast cancer survivor, winner, fighter, warrior, patient. All of those categories apply to me. And what I'm going to share with you right now, 5 tips to cancer or breast cancer prevention, is something that you can do whether you've had breast cancer or not. And it's certainly something that I am doing on a regular basis to avoid a recurrence in the first place. So to me, the importance is not just in October, but throughout the year on how can we possibly prevent a diagnosis, seeing that now basically every 3rd woman is going to be diagnosed with breast cancer at some point in her life. That is quite a staggering statistic. So if you look around you, wherever you are, if you're amongst your friends, or if you are in a strange place, maybe at a coffee shop or at your grocery store, just look around you and count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 with every woman that you see. And you can point out you are going to be diagnosed with breast cancer. So it is staggering. And the emphasis that really needs to gain momentum is an awareness on how can we prevent it from happening in the first place. So I'm going to focus on these 5 tips for you today. And then afterwards, if you want to know more, find out more, if you like what I share and would like to hear more, I have a guide for you that you can download that lists 10 steps, and they're going to expand on what I'm saying, include a little bit others as well, and give you a bit more of a comprehensive overview. And I'm going to share the link to that guide. It's free. It's at no cost to you. You can download that at the end when I'm done with my Facebook Live in the comments section. And I also encourage you to, if you have an opinion on this, or if you would like to share an experience, please do so. That's what the comment section is there for. And I'm going to be popping in every now and then, even in the weeks and months to follow, to have a look and see what comments there are and reply to you and just be in touch with you that way. All right. So what are the 5 tips for breast cancer prevention? And my tip number 1, very important tip, is hormones. Know your hormonal status. So for many of us women, we don't really get to know what our hormones are doing, what hormones we have, are they imbalanced, unless we have some kind of scare, be it a breast cancer diagnosis or maybe be it a thyroid issue, but something has to happen with our health. Some chronic condition needs to happen before we take the move of understanding maybe we should check our hormones, or we just wait for some doctor to tell us, well, maybe this could be your hormones. And then we don't really know what that means. So knowing your hormonal status is something that you can do all on your own, proactively, without even needing a doctor. You can educate yourself. And that's really the key here, is become your own advocate for your health and understand what are the female hormones. Most women that I speak with have no clue, first of all, what the extent is of the hormones, what the precursors are, and what they are meant to do in your body. And it's important that we know that. Why? Because we need to know what our levels are, what are they doing, because we each are unique. We also are in different phases of our lives. Maybe we are perimenopausal, menopausal, postmenopausal. Maybe we aren't even there yet. We're still menstruating. How does that affect us other than just becoming this nagging problem? Oh, it's my hormones again. Well, our hormones are there. They're natural. They are part of what makes us female and allows us to be who we are. It allows us to be the nurturing element, to give life, to nurture life. And it allows us to be in touch with our own femininity. So hormones are not always the devil, but we need to understand what our levels are, what they are doing for us. And the best way of finding that out is there are certain functional tests we can do that give you a very good picture of not just what hormones you have and what the levels are, if the levels are within range or not. That's such basic information, but it doesn't hone in on the real nitty-gritty part. And that is really understanding that, for example, estrogen, we know that estrogen is one of our female hormones, and it plays a key role in many breast cancers. So many breast cancers, when you send either a biopsy or the actual removal of the tumor, when you send that to pathology, it comes back saying you are estrogen receptor positive. And that means that it has been identified that the hormone estrogen drives that tumor growth. So of course, estrogen becomes our enemy, and we try and suppress that at all cost. But let's kind of take a step back and understand what the role of estrogen is and how it shows up in the body, because there are different types of estrogen in the body. Only 2 of them are proliferative in cell growth. So one of them is a weaker estrogen, and it doesn't necessarily add to that cell growth. So we have, in estrogen, we have estradiol, we have estrone, and we have estriol. So those are 3 different types of estrogens on their own already that each have a little bit of a different function in the body. And we can have different levels, and we need to know what those different levels are. Then, of course, we also go to understanding, well, what happens to the estrogen in our body? How is it broken down? Or the more clinical term for that is methylated. So the different estrogens are methylated in certain ways, meaning they are broken down and then travel along certain pathways to be eliminated by the body. That is a very complicated biochemical process, and we need to first of all understand how that can function, and secondly, well, how is my estrogen broken down to? Is it broken down into a pathway that is more harmful for us or not? We need to know that. We need to have that information to understand how our body really effectively works. So just knowing your levels of estrogen is not enough on its own. You want to know, first of all, what the ratio is of the different estrogens in your body and in relation to other hormones too. And you also want to know, how is that actually broken down in the pathways? And how is it metabolized as well, broken down? And then how is it methylated? Do we have certain genetic mutations that can influence that and again cause estrogen to accumulate more in our bodies or to become more aggressive? So I've only just mentioned estrogen. Please understand there are a couple of other hormones and precursor hormones that play into that. But that's really just the nitty-gritty, the nutshell of one hormone, estrogen, but how we need to understand what our hormones are and what they're doing for our bodies. And that's where you can do this. You can do this through certain functional testing. And, people like myself and your functional doctor, they are the ones who understand this, and they are the ones who can help you get those facts, because that's what you need to do. You need to arm yourself with knowledge about your body, and only you can initiate that. So my tip number 2 is still related to hormones, but it's important again to understand too, in our modern way of living, what environmental factors actually influence our hormone production or the levels of hormones that we have and where they settle in the body. So in our modern world, there are lots of factors that can have so-called estrogenic effects on the body. And we go back to that estrogen again. I'm just highlighting that one hormone. And that means that we can accumulate levels of estrogen from our environment. Certain foods that we eat, yes, but also certain body products, cleansing products, cosmetic products, cleaning products. Why? Because they contain chemicals that can have estrogenic effects on the body, that can basically accumulate and add to a so-called toxic burden in the body. And we need to understand that, because we're surrounding ourselves with this all the time. If it's in our skincare products, if it's in our makeup and cosmetic products, we usually apply that every single day as women. And I'm not saying you need to stop doing that, because we use it. That's what makes us, well, partly makes the feminine, brings the femininity out in us, is that we can adorn ourselves, and we want to color our hair, and we want to use a bit of makeup in the face. I do that too, except for coloring the hair. I don't do that anymore. But applying a bit of color. I mean, that's what makes us a woman. And it doesn't mean we need to stop that. It means we need to become more mindful and understand which chemicals that are used in many common products are actually adding to our estrogen burden. And then why are we surprised if we get diagnosed with cancer and the cancer happens to be estrogen receptor positive, which many of them are? We at that time have to then also address, well, what in our environment is adding to that burden? So tip number 3 is sleep. Sleep, sleep, sleep. We are not getting enough sleep. And why is sleep so important? Well, it's pretty basic. That is the time that our body needs to repair itself and to rejuvenate itself, to repair cells that have decided, I'm going to go my own way. I'm not going to follow the rules of the team. I'm going to be my own little maverick and do what I want. And our immune system can keep that in check. We are constantly having cells kind of on the edge of wanting to mutate. But usually our immune system and our other bodily systems can keep that in check and stop it from developing any further. So that happens basically regularly every single day. And sleep is so important because that's when the body focuses on repair and rejuvenation. So think about the 2 R's, repair and rejuvenation. And if we are robbing the body of sleep, then we are robbing the body the ability to get back to strength. It's as if when you are sick, say you're sick with a flu and you'd need to lie in bed and rest it out, you are forced to go back to work too soon. And you just basically pump yourself up with medication to keep on functioning, but you're actually really doing yourself a huge disservice. You're not allowing your body to actually heal. So you're probably going to stay sicker for longer, and you are at the same time influencing your immune system to such a degree that in future, if it is exposed to a challenge like that, it might not respond in the most optimal way. So we can control the amount of sleep we get just simply by applying a couple of certain steps. And, one thing is going to bed early, because I think we all fall prey, and I will include myself in that too. We all fall prey to extending that bedtime. We are often in front of the screen too long, checking Facebook still, or even working, or maybe just, searching Google for answers, or whatever we do on our screens, or reading. That's kind of my vice. I like to go to bed reading a little bit before, and if I go to bed too late, I have to skip on that. And sometimes I force that in and I kind of pay for it the next day. I can feel it. And I think that's what I want you to kind of experience too, is how you can feel that. So if I just get 1 hour less sleep than what I need, I can feel it the next day. I am not as sharp, and I'm just not as able to deal with the happenings of the next day. And that's a warning sign. So again, you have to kind of force yourself. It's a habit change very often, but you have to force yourself to shut down sooner. And if I want to read in bed, if that is very important to me, which it is, I need to get up there sooner. And if not, I just need to be vigilant and say, tonight's not a reading night, sorry. So ideally, you kind of want to be asleep by 11 p.m. Okay? And because that initial sleep is so important for you. So you want to be asleep by 11 p.m. So that's kind of a goal you can set to yourself. And then, of course, it depends when you need to get up for work, or getting your kids off to school, or, the ungodly hours that our high school starts and you have to kick the teenagers out of bed. I have to say, I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about the impact that the sleep deprivation that my 16-year-old daughter is having on her immune system. And to a degree, I feel a little bit helpless here because of the homework load that they get. And, they are involved in other activities. They don't just come home from school and can sit down and do their homework. No, they have other activities going on, and yet there is this homework load and they need to finish that. Otherwise, they get penalized right away. So it means she never gets enough sleep. And I can see the effects of that, and I can see how it affects her immune system going forward. So generally by January, February, we start picking up bugs and she'll get it. And so for her system, sleep is vitally, vitally important. And for most of us, that holds true as well. So those are 3 tips so far. My 4th tip for breast cancer prevention is, and this might surprise you, but I'm going to tell you to embrace stress. Now that sounds funny or odd to you. I can understand that, because how can we embrace stress? Stress is this horrible thing. Stress is our enemy. Stress is our devil as well, in a way. And yes, it is, but it's there. It's part of our life. So to a certain degree, we are supposed to be stressed every now and then so that our body can get into this fight or flight response. That's a very normal, natural process. The problem in today's day and age, of course, is that we have too much stress. So the body is constantly in this fight or flight mode and cannot relax. And it has the same effect on the immune system than lack of sleep does. So it is imperative for us, when we're trying to embrace stress, is to figure out which stresses can I change or control in my life, and which I really don't have any immediate control over, other than how I react to that. And that's a very, very important point. So stresses that I can change is, if it is within my scope of control, I can change to do things, decide to do things differently. And again, that's a top priority for me to do. So when we look at the stresses in our lives, and I suggest that you do that you write down your top 5 stresses tonight and figure out, are they within my control, my immediate scope of control, or not? So if they are, change them. Do something else about it. It is that serious that you really tackle this issue. If you can't do something about it immediately, then you need to figure out, how do I respond differently to that? And that's a little bit more tricky to do, but please understand, it is within your power to decide, is that going to stress me out or not? And if it's something I can't control immediately, then why am I allowing it to really get myself so revved up? And that's where your control comes in again, because you can control how you respond to stress and how you perceive stress. Because sometimes what we perceive as stress isn't necessarily a huge stressor. And sometimes it helps to compare yourself to others and realize, wow, that person has a real lot of things going on in their lives, and they're actually doing pretty okay. Why am I so stressed about some issue that for me I think is this big thing, but is it really? So let's really analyze our stresses and figure out, where can I directly control it, and where can I control how I perceive it and how I react to it. But we need to embrace stress in some way or another, because it's not just going to magically vanish. It just doesn't happen. And my last and 5th tip to help breast cancer prevention is very simply your emotional self-care. Now, if you know me, you know how passionate I am about that. And why is that so important? It's the lingering underlying emotional issues that we either are aware of consciously, or we're not aware of, but they are still lingering at a subconscious level, that is directly affecting how our immune system can function with these cells that are trying to go AWOL, trying to do their own thing, trying to become cancerous cells. So there is not a single cancer patient that doesn't have some form of emotional issue in their lives. Again, either consciously, they will know about it. They will say, I know what it is. And some will say, I have no clue. But if you kind of really start talking to them, you'll realize there's some emotional trauma that is deeply, deeply, deeply buried, and it won't come up in your immediate memory because you've suppressed it to such a degree to keep it out of your life. But it's there. It really is there, and we can't avoid that. We have to address that. And that's, again, one area where, if what is causing you emotional distress, you can't change, but you can change how you react to it and how you process that emotional trauma that is stuck there. That's where you need to take the initiative and find the right practitioner to address that and work through these issues. So what it boils down to is, A, you need to take action. You are in charge of your health. And that means you have to assemble a team that helps you move through these areas in your lives that you have some weaknesses, or you're not quite managing. But that's really what having a prevention strategy is all about. Where in my life do I need help? Do I need help with nutrition? Do I need help with certain lifestyle changes? Do I need help with stress management? Do I need help with emotional self-care? Do I just need help with strategizing properly or planning properly in my everyday life? Where do I need help? And maybe a professional can help me at least get back on track. But the initiative is yours to take. So I do have a guide to share with you, my 10 breast cancer prevention steps. So that expands a lot more on what I just, told you here. I'm going to post that link in the comment section, and you can go download that for you and just see what else is in that list that might help you make that decision. And instead of just sitting back and hoping, oh my God, I hope I'm not going to be one of those 3 women that are going to be diagnosed with cancer in a lifetime, you can become proactive. And one more thing I want to add here is I deal with a lot of patients that lead so-called pretty healthy lives already. And the question that they have is, why me? Why did it affect me? I know so many other people in my lives or in my environment, and I can see how unhealthy they're living, but yet here I am, the one with a breast cancer diagnosis. Listen to the 5 things, the 5 tips that I told you. Maybe listen to this again. And I'm sure that 1 or 2 of them you haven't yet addressed. And I'm pretty sure of that, because I fell into that category too when I was diagnosed at 39. Which is now 9 years ago. I thought I was leading a pretty healthy life, but I also knew that one of those areas was an area that I had neglected, even though it was kind of, like, hopping up in the background, but I was ignoring it. I was closing that window like we do on a computer, closing that window and always clicking the button that says later. When you get those download requests on the computer, download a new thing or new software update, and you go later. I was doing that, and it fell into my category of emotional self-care, and I knew I had to deal with that. And that's usually what people that are living healthy lives are not yet doing. Okay, so take these 5 tips to heart. They are very important, whether you have nothing to do with breast cancer, whether you've had breast cancer, or whether you're actually fighting breast cancer right now or trying to transform this relationship that you have with cancer. These 5 tips are helpful for you. I urge you to share this Facebook Live on your platforms, because we need to spread the word about the things that you can do. It is too late when we get diagnosed and we think now we need to put our lives into the hands of an oncologist. That is only one part of the equation, and there's so many things we can do beforehand as well that could possibly prevent that from happening in the first place, or prevent a recurrence. Because even if we are a breast cancer patient or survivor, we still need to address those 5 items. We can't get away from it. It's a lifelong journey, and it's a lifelong commitment to yourself. So by not addressing them, we in a way practicing some form of self-sabotage. And why are we doing that to ourselves? We are these wonderful, human beings, and we want to be well, we want to thrive, and we want to make a mark and have a purpose in life. And we can. We just need to understand that we need to take responsibility for our own health. So again, if you have any comments, leave them here. Even if you're seeing this, not now live, but at a later stage, I will come back and check. Please share. Lots of good information here. And I really wish you a breast cancer-free journey, whether you've been already diagnosed or not. And I hope to, interact with you again soon. I've got lots of information to share on my website too, Kirstin'sCancerCare.com. So thank you for listening so far, and take care for now.